it's Jessica again behind the camera, and there is my amazing nephew. What I'm showing him to do now is a very, very critical step of flan, any flan, is the caramel. It's the luscious sweetness that you see when you flip the flan. And at Gringa Flan, we make our caramel to be a golden, beautiful color. The key to me to doing this is making sure that your saucepan is warm. So Darius, turn the saucepan a little bit higher, the heat. I'd say medium heat. And you don't want it too hot, because if it gets too hot and it starts bubbling, you've ruined it. So when the saucepan is warm, put your hand down over it and you can feel that it's warm. That's when you add the sugar. So he's gonna add, we're gonna do those ramekins there, so I'd say just add a, fill that whole quarter cup up and put it in the pan. Perfect. You're gonna keep an eye on that. I would actually add some more, and then I'm gonna bring the camera closer so we can see what it's doing actually in the pan. You can see that it's starting to melt. Do you see it's getting like a pale yellow? What do you think, Dee?
Looks really cool.
Okay. So the reason why I recommend a wooden spoon is because metal spoons get very cold once you bring them out of the sugar. Sugar is a thing that you have to kind of keep a constant eye on. I know Darius is stirring it a lot, but you don't necessarily need to. Give it just a good stir, and sometimes it has to sit, because when you stir it, air gets to it and it cools it down. So another word of caution about sugar and making caramel. It is hot. Very, very hot, like emergency room hot. You hear me?
Yes.
All right, just checking. And so you don't want to be putting it on your hand to see how it tastes, or you don't want to be messing with it. You just want to let it do its thing. And you can see it's crumbling. Let me give it a good stir there. So I tend to try to mix it around, so look how beautiful and yellow it's getting. And I think that, I know some recipes that you find on the internet ask you to add water. Some recipes for fun on the internet tell you to use bottled caramel, but we don't do that at Gringa Flan. We love you too much, right?
Yep.
So these little nuggets of sugar, the reason why we got them was two things. Maybe the pan wasn't hot enough when we put it in, the sugar, or we stirred it and it just starts making little hard nuggets, but they'll go away eventually. You just have to make sure that the caramel doesn't overcook while they're going away. I have it like a medium heat right now. I'm going to turn it down a little bit, and I'm going to stop recording so we can start preparing to get the ramekins ready. And I'm putting them near the heat deliberately because for sure it's much easier to pour sugar into a warm baking vessel than a cold one, because as soon as you put your sugar in there, it starts to chill, and it's getting almost perfect.
Oh, it looks good.
You can smell it too, right? I mean, some people can put cinnamon in it. We just use regular sugar. It's just pure, made with love caramel. All right, I'm gonna stop it now, and then I'll do a demo of pouring it into the vessels. So I'm gonna actually do the short sugar. I don't want Darius, maybe I'll have him try one, but let me show you how it's done. So you can see here that it's completely melted. And all it takes is a little in the bottom of one of these ramekins. And that one is covering the bottom already. You can see. And I tend to like to swirl it around, and you're hearing this sugar bubble a little bit because these ramekins were just washed, so there was a little wetness in them. But I'm gonna set them here, set that one here, and let it cool, and then you'll see how it looks when it's done. And then one thing you have to know is if the sugar tends to drop on your pan, I always keep a damp napkin, because if it gets down onto the burner, it'll start smoking. Not a big deal, you just have to clean it up later. So these all look great. So I'm gonna do a little extra.
Wow, that's like molasses.
It is. And then it's funny because these things actually talk to you later when they're getting cool. They crack and they make cool noises. But that's that. So if you had more stuff you were doing, you'd make more sugar. It's just a process. But these are something that we're gonna maybe do for Mother's Day. Definitely for your abuela, for sure. But they look beautiful. I don't know if you guys can see the finished product. And we're gonna let them cool. And then our next step is batter.